Printing labels is one of the most common database tasks, and FileMaker has great support for labels. So we're going to create a label layout here, but the first thing we want to do is go to Page Setup or Print Setup. You want to make sure that you have your printer set up correctly, because when you use the Assistant, it uses the current Print Setup or Page Setup options. And if you don't do this, your layout may not come out correctly. So we'll go to the File menu and choose Page Setup or Print Setup, depending on whether you're a Mac or Windows. And what you want to do is make sure that if you've got a choice, such as US letter or US letter small, choose US letter. That will give you a larger print area, and that's going to be better for these labels, because when we go into this, we're going to use Avery 5160 labels, and they try to fit a lot of labels on one page. And so if you don't have this set up correctly, then it's going to be difficult. And if you have it set up to any printer, a generic printer or something like that, well, it's going to go ahead and make margins that are bigger, and you want to have the smallest possible margins. So if you have a printer that has, and you can try this out by looking in layout mode and see what the margins are. You can experiment with it, but if it does come out wrong, this may be the issue right here. So we'll go ahead and click OK now that we have it set up correctly. We'll go into layout mode and create a new layout. We'll call this Print Labels. Now it seems like every time I tell you a rule, like always use a blank layout, I break that rule. Well, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to come over here and choose labels. Why? Well, I'm breaking these rules, as you notice, when we're doing print layouts. When you're doing layouts for data entry, which there's usually far more layouts for data entry than there are for printing, you're going to go ahead and use all your skills to make a nice looking interface. And I just don't really like the way the interfaces look through all these other options, standard and table. And there's all kinds of advanced stuff you do on these. So generally I don't do that, but on print layouts, well, not all of them, but some of them, like a label layout or an envelope, I'll actually use these assistants. And because it just makes life much easier. So we'll hit next. And what you get here is, what type of label do you want? Try to stick with one of these label measurements here. And even if you don't have Avery labels, usually on those label sheets will say, like this type of Avery label. And you can see there's quite a bit here. The Avery is definitely the standard. And you go down here, you have all these Averys, and then you have some Dymos at the bottom here. So we're going to use Avery 5160 because it's 3 columns and 10 rows. You can get a lot of labels out of that. In fact, it looks a lot like the example here. Now you can do custom measurements if you want. You get to specify how many columns there are and what the width and height of that label is. Now look at this closely. It measures from the very beginning of that label to the beginning of the next label. That includes that gutter, and same here, top to top. You can also specify your fixed margins. You can specify where it starts, because there's going to be some space between the edge of this label and the page, or the end of the page here. So you can specify your fixed margin. So you can really, if you have something that's not supported by these up here, well, then you can make your own. And I've done it before. In fact, we could do the Avery 5160, because we could go out and measure our labels. We'll have a sheet of them and do custom measurements, and it would come out just as well. But it's so much easier to use these. These are preset for you. So try to stick with them. So we'll hit next, and now we get to choose our fields. All of our fields here from the current table, we get to put them down in this section here. And this is like a merge field like we've done before. It's very easy to use. We'll decide what our first field is. So we'll go down and find, let's say, company. Double click on it, hit return. Find name first. Double click on it, type a space. Name last, double click on it, hit return. Then go find our address. And if you don't want to double click, you can click an add field. I just find it faster to double click. Hit a return. Address 2. Return. We'll come down and find the city, comma, space. Find our state with type ahead. Type ahead's really great. It works in so many dialogues. Then type a space. Find our postal code, and we're done. And you'll see that this will actually translate to real merge fields once we're done. We'll hit next, and I want to make some changes likely, but we'll see. So I'm going to go into layout mode on this one. And you can see what it's made for you is simply a text block. I'm going to double check the font. You can see that it's on Helvetica. That's exactly what we want. And so since this is a text block, you can change it any way afterwards. So if you forget something, you can come in here, double click on it, type the return key, and type in whatever you want in here. So there's a lot of versatility after you've used the assistant to create this label out. You can tweak it however you want.